Hey everybody, we are back with part two of The Pedestrian. Let's review and analyze what's going on at the end of this short story. Okay, my friends, your job was to read The Pedestrian by Ray Bradbury. Very short. And I didn't tell you last time what happened, but I hope you guys were able to get a sense of the structure of this story. Because that's what we're going to be diving into first. We're going to be diving into the structure, and then we're going to be talking about some metaphors. And throughout, we're going to be exploring the irony, the kind of twist in the end that happens and lends the whole story meaning. Remember, short stories, they're very condensed. Therefore, you have to pack a lot of these little tricks like irony, twists, shock at the end for there to be a purpose to these short stories. For novels, you get to develop these characters in depth over time, and you get to really learn about the characters and know about the characters and come to feel you are one of the characters. Short stories are a little different. They work a lot more with allegory, a lot more with metaphor of the sense of everything is symbolic in this little short space. So let's go ahead and dive into that structure. If you remember, we went over the plot development last time, but I wanted to, always remind you, how does the plot development relate to the theme? So let's go through a little bit of this plot development chart. The exposition. Leonard Mead walks alone on an empty street. Everyone else is indoors watching TV. How does that help us push forward the theme? Remember, the theme is all about how distractions, like watching TV or driving fast cars, they all take you away from what it means to be human, which is having connections with other people, stopping and having time to think, to reflect on a leaf that you find on the ground, which is really a metaphor for looking inside of yourself and exploring nature, exploring the world around you, developing your own perspective, not just whatever the TV spews out at you. That's the theme we're working for. So the exposition helps clearly to push forward that theme. My question to you is, does the inciting incident help push forward that theme? Remember, an inciting incident is the thing that kicks off the conflict. So what happens? A police car stops Mead and questions, "Why are you walking?" How does that help push forward our theme? Definitely, because other people are like, "You're walking? Why?" Remember the rising action. The car is interrogating him, the police car. Why don't you have a TV? Why aren't you watching TV right now? Why are you outside? Why are you so different? Then it gets to the climax where he's actually arrested. That is helping us with the irony and the shock. Why would someone possibly get arrested just for walking? You see the irony? That's what the whole story hinges upon, is this climactic irony. You wouldn't expect someone to get arrested for walking. Um, in fact, Mead is just trying to be natural human. It's what natural humans do. They like to be outside, they like to walk. And he's getting punished for being a natural human. Now we can see how Ray Bradbury is criticizing modern life. Falling action. The police car drives him through the empty streets past the houses that are all glowing with the TV. Okay, so how does that help us push forward this theme? And then the end, the final twist. He's not even sent to the police station. The police station is where you're punished for something you did wrong, but only a stable person can be punished for something they did wrong, or else they won't know why they're being punished. They're assuming that Mead is actually crazy. You can't put a crazy person in prison. They won't know why they're there. The whole point of putting someone in prison is to have them reflect on the bad thing that they did and to punish them. You can't punish a crazy person. They don't know what it means to follow rules and laws. So the fact that they don't even take him to the police station, they just put him in an insane asylum. They think he's crazy. So it's crazy to be someone who doesn't want to watch TV. Now, this was before iPads and internet and screens, cell phones. But I think this kind of criticism holds true today, where we even have a word. Screenagers is a teenager who's completely addicted to their phone. They don't even look up when they're crossing the street. So this, even though this is what was written in 50s, a long time ago, It really rings true today, the effects of technology on what it means to be human. So it's all a question. You may agree, you may disagree with him, but it is an exploration of this theme. The second thing I want to get into today is metaphor because you're going to be doing an activity on this. A metaphor is a figure of speech that directly compares two unrelated things by stating that one thing is the other. We have it, all like so many expressions we use every day. For example, if you did something really easy and you're like, oh, that was a piece of cake. Okay, well, it obviously wasn't really a piece of cake, but the metaphor helps us just express ourselves in really fresh and interesting, fun ways to help the reader or the listener get a sense of what we're truly talking about. It's very creative. So I want to show you guys a couple of things that are occurring on a level of metaphor in the story. So there's two types of metaphor that I really want to go over that you'll see in any story, in every story. I mean, that's how fiction writers create fiction is by using metaphor. The first we're going to talk about is metaphor on a sentence level. This means that literally in the sentence, there's being a comparison made between two things that are unalike in that sentence. Let me go ahead and show you. This is a quote from the story. During the day, it was a thunderous surge of cars. The gas stations open, a great insect, rustling and a ceaseless jockeying for position as the scarab beetles, a faint incense puttering from their exhausts, skimmed homeward to the far directions. But now, at night, these highways too were like streams in a dry season, all stone and bed and moon radiant. So he's talking about how at night it's all empty. And he's saying that during the day, people aren't walking. In the day, people are driving. They get into these cars that he thinks are like beetles. Now, what is a scarab beetle? Let me just show you real quick. It's these things. So he's comparing cars. He thinks they look like insects, like beetles. So we might want to think, why is he using that metaphor? Why the great insect? Okay, obviously insects aren't like the most beautiful animal of the whatever animal kingdom, bug kingdom, but he's making this direct comparison that cars are like insects. So you can see that on the sentence level, he's comparing two things that are typically not to be compared. That's a metaphor that typically he's doing in the sentence and he's using it as a simile. Here, where he says like or as, this time it's a metaphor when he says a great insect because he doesn't use like or as, he just says it was a great insect. Okay, so that's on a sentence level, but also you need to be aware that metaphors work not just on the sentence level, but on an idea level, on a storyline plot level, plot concept level. And the whole idea of walking is that big metaphor on an idea level. So he's not like saying he doesn't in the text compare walking to anything. But if you read the text as a whole, you get this idea that he's using the idea of walking as a metaphor for something. Let's take a look. Here's, for example, just something pulled from the text where he says, in 10 years of walking by night or day for thousands of miles, he had never met another person walking, not once in all that time. So here's this idea that nobody ever walks. So he's not comparing two things. He's not saying this is like walking or this is walking. What he's saying is that nobody walks. So we have to detect that that's a metaphor on an idea level because it's not true that you would ever find in any time period ever, past, present, or future, nobody walking. Right? We walk. That's what makes us human. So it's not really true what he's saying. He's making a fictional point. So it's not really something that would happen, but he is using it as a way to prove something. Here's what I think he's trying to prove. The idea of walking, this whole main feature of the whole plot, right? The title's called The Pedestrian. Pedestrian is someone who walks. It's a commentary on how people are so consumed by their distractions, right? TVs, fast cars, they forget what makes them human. Connection with others, exploring your world and yourself. The police don't even give him a chance to explain himself. There's no connection. There's no people outside. Nobody's affecting anybody else. And you're just sent to an insane asylum if you're a human. So the whole idea of walking really is a metaphor on the whole level of the story, not necessarily using like or as on a sentence level like it is up here. Nevertheless, those are two metaphors that you want to contend with in the story. So to continue on metaphors as a storyline concept, we have the pedestrian, right? That's the title of the whole story. The pedestrian, which means someone who walks, right? If you're not in a car, you're walking, you're a pedestrian. A pedestrian is being compared to a driver at that part of the story that I read to you. So or is being contrasted. A pedestrian walks, a driver drives. And if you're walking, you're living a slow life. If you're driving, you have to get somewhere super fast. You can't, like a pedestrian, take in any experience. If you're driving fast, there's no time to think. You get from point A to point B. You don't have to have any exploration of yourself or of the people around you or of the world around you. So you see this whole metaphor of why he used someone walking as the main character and how what I think is really interesting is I think the pedestrian really points to human, what it means to be human, whereas the driver and the TV watcher really point to what it means to be a machine, what it means to just go through the motions and to not really think and feel. So, my question to you, and this is going to be your homework for this week, is Leonard Mead the only human in the story? This is what we're going to be thinking about. And you have to try to use some of these metaphors of machine, driving, watching TV, the police, capturing him and putting him in an insane asylum as if he were not human. Um, People are trying to convince Mead that he's crazy, that he's not human. But the question is, you as the reader have to decide whether Mead is crazy or the whole world is crazy. Okay, but before we do any of that, I'm going to have you guys do an activity, week 26 with the metaphors. Let's go take a look. I already showed you this worksheet here where we went through different types of metaphors. What you're going to do is you're going to use these two metaphors and you're going to answer this question below in 5 sentences. How does Bradbury use metaphor, both on a sentence level and an idea level, to show his criticism that people are forgetting what it means to be human? Use little snippets of quotes from the examples above to help prove your answer. You're going to have 10 minutes. You'll turn it in whenever you're finished, and then the lesson will resume. Okay, we are back. I just think it's noteworthy to consider one potential theme that's going on in this story, and you can agree or disagree with me. But the idea is that everybody's watching TV, and consumerism is the idea of people buying things. To be a consumer, you're someone who buys something. So I'm asking you guys, is the pedestrian also a comment on the negative aspects of consumerism? If you aren't thinking, you are watching TV. If you are watching, you are buying. So if you're watching TV, you're not thinking. If you're watching, you're buying things. And the less you think, the more you are you dive deep into distractions to help you. We have big brains. We want to think. But when other people are convincing us that we just want to buy stuff, is that why he uses television? And one reason why I think this is because he does allude to the fact that people don't read anymore. They don't consume books. They don't consume ideas in text, which I think is related to, a higher form of intelligence, according probably to Bradbury. That's from his point of view, probably. So if you're just watching TV, it's really not the same as reading books. Let me show you one quote. When he's being interrogated by the police, they say, "Your name?" said the police car in a metallic whisper. He couldn't see the men in it for the bright light in his eyes, right? So it's almost like the police car is a machine itself. There's no humans coming out to talk to him. They're in the car talking to him, not getting out, not really interacting with him. Could be that the police car is just this machine. Again, another criticism, no human interaction. So he says, "Leonard Mead," he said, "speak up." Leonard Mead. Business or profession? Well, I guess you'd call me a writer. So think about it. Why is Leonard Mead a writer? Remember, writer in this time period, nobody wants to read. So is a writer going to have a profession? No, you're going to be out of work. So he says, "I guess you'd call me a writer." And the police car says, "Okay, so no profession," said the police car, as if talking to itself. Remember, people aren't talking to each other in this world. The light held him fixed like a museum specimen, needle thrust through the chest. Remember, they're not treating him like a human. He feels more like a museum specimen than a human. "You might say that," said Mr. Mead, right? "You might say that I don't have a profession." He hadn't written in years. Magazines and books didn't sell anymore. Everything went on in the tomb-like houses at night now, he thought, continuing his fancy or his thoughts. The tombs, ill-lit by television light, where the people sat like dead, the gray and multicolored lights touching their faces, but never really touching them. No profession. And then he just gets in trouble for walking. So as you can see, the idea of consumerism, like people aren't buying books. People are consuming content on televisions, but they're not reading anymore. They're not reading good writing anymore. And Ray Bradbury, as a writer, is criticizing this world of if they are reading writing, it's probably trash. It's probably just pop culture trash that could also just be spewed out to you on television. Are people thinking anymore? And that's what leads us to our homework for this week. We are going to be doing another literary analysis paragraph so I can get you guys as familiar as possible with the structure, right? You're putting your claim, you're answering the question through your own interpretation, and you're giving quotes and analysis to back it up. So the question is, we talked about this a lot today, is Leonard Mead the only person in 2053 who is human? Is he the only character? Is he the only person in this world who is human? Why or why not? You can use any information from what we learned this week or last week using structure, metaphor, irony. I really want you to practice around playing using these literary elements, the language of literary elements in your paragraph, using words like characterization, structure, irony, metaphor will really help you become a stronger writer. And just to recap for you, you're going to actually be moving on to the next short story. You're going to be reading The Necklace. You'll find that in the homework for this week, the PDF for that. And you're going to answer the human question, week 26, that we just went over. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.